Well, good morning and welcome back to our journey through Lent toward the crucifixion of Jesus and the celebration of the resurrection on Easter Sunday. In today's text, we continue in John chapter 12, and we're in the final days before the crucifixion. In verse 27, Jesus prays, "Now my soul has become troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? But for this purpose I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name." And then a voice booms out of heaven, "I have both glorified it and will glorify it again." And there was a crowd of people who were standing around and heard the voice, and Jesus tells them that this voice has not come for my sake, but for your sakes. Now judgment is upon this world. Now the ruler of this world will be cast out, and I, if I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all men to myself. John tells us that Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which he was to die. And in verse 37, John records that though Jesus had performed so many signs before them, yet they were not believing in him. So John then quotes from the book of Isaiah and says that this was to fulfill the word of Isaiah the prophet. Now, I'm a strong advocate of the concept that when a New Testament writer quotes an Old Testament passage and claims that the event the writer is writing about is the fulfillment of what the prophet spoke of, that is the fulfillment. Also, when a New Testament writer assigns a meaning to an Old Testament passage, that is the meaning. Not a meaning, but the meaning. John quotes then from Isaiah 53 and from Isaiah 6. Now remember, Isaiah 53 is the messianic prophecy that foretells the brutal death the Messiah would incur at the hands of his own people. He quotes Isaiah 53 verse 1, "Lord, who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed?" For this reason, John says, they could not believe, for Isaiah said again, and this time he quotes from Isaiah chapter 6. Remember, Isaiah 6:1 begins with, "In the year of King Uzziah's death, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, lofty and exalted, with the train of his robe filling the temple." It's a prophecy of the coming Messiah in the distant future from the time Isaiah wrote of it. Isaiah wrote of it about 750 years before it occurred. It's also a prophecy that there would only be a remnant of the people who would actually see and believe. John writes that these things Isaiah said because he saw his glory and he spoke of him, speaking of Jesus. And then in verses 41 and 42 of John 17, John says, "Nevertheless, many even of the rulers believed in him, but because of the Pharisees, they were not confessing him for fear that they would be put out of the synagogue. For they loved the approval of men rather than the approval of God." Now what a tragedy. Earlier this week we saw the passage where Jesus said, "He who is ashamed of me and my words in this evil and adulterous generation, I will be ashamed of him before my Father." And then he asked this question, "For what will a man give in exchange for his soul?" Throughout history, men have given their soul to money, to power, to prestige, to the approval of men, to unbridled pleasure, and more. We all have the opportunity to come to Jesus, unashamedly, to devote ourselves to him and to live our lives according to his ways. "If anyone wishes to come after me," Jesus said, "he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me." That message has never been popular. I closed out last Sunday's sermon at Metroplex Chapel with the words to the song, "I have decided to follow Jesus." One of the verses says, "Though none go with me, still I will follow." You have to determine that no matter the cost, you are going to grab hold of Jesus and refuse to let go, even if you're the only one. And you won't be the only one. Hey, thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a great weekend. And if you don't have a church that you regularly attend, I'd like to invite you to join me right here at Metroplex Chapel tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I hope to see you then, Go out and make today a great Saturday.